Welcome back to another episode of the Perfect Superhero Movie, where we bring smiles and laughter to those who need it the most. Today, we are looking at a movie that I actually surprisingly enjoyed despite my thoughts going into it. Suicide Squad. Oh god, no, not that one. Oh god, please, not that one. Okay, to be fair, the original one did have a few things going for it. Like, the fact that it got soft rebooted. Alright, now let's go talk about the Suicide Squad. Now I think everybody should watch this movie, because even those who don't like superhero movies could really enjoy this movie because of what James Gunn does here, and we will definitely be talking about him later. I gotta say right off the bat, this movie is one of the most stylized superhero movies that I've seen in a long time. I didn't initially want to make too many comparisons to the first Suicide Squad movie, but like my father's mentality to beatings, I think to get a few points across, it's only fair to do it a little bit. Now the first Suicide Squad really took the plot too seriously and didn't take the characters serious enough. That's why I never really cared about any of them, because there was never really time devoted to making me do so. I think that is exactly where this movie shines. It takes the plot not so seriously, yet focuses on the characters over anything else, and the characters are what shine in this movie and make it great. And you can really tell that James Gunn is in the driver's seat of the movie's overall production, because his specialty isn't to take unknown comic book characters and make them a household name, even though that's what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy, but rather his strength is to make you care about characters and really dissect them on an emotional level so you understand their motivations and feelings and how they evolve through the entire film. That's what made the Guardians movies so good as well. He made you care about characters and believe that they bonded during their time together. Same applies here to the Suicide Squad. The first film did not make you feel any connection to any character. Not Will Smith playing Will Smith, not El Diablo, and definitely not the love connection between Rick Flag and June Moon or whatever her name was. But then at the end of the movie, El Diablo was possessed by the spirit of Dom Toretto and said that he wasn't going to lose another family when we can't even feel friendship-style bonds between these characters, let alone family. And that's where this new movie really succeeds. You learn about each character on an individual level and learn to care about them for different reasons. I mean, James Gunn made me care about a character named Polkadot Man. That should be an achievement on its own. But let's start with Bloodsport. Idris Elba plays Bloodsport, who is basically just another version of Will Smith's Deadshot from the first movie. And they even toy with that idea by giving you another character that is just a carbon copy of him again, and it's in the same film. They even make a joke about it.
His father was a mercenary who trained his son to kill from the moment he was born. His father was a soldier who trained his son how to kill from the moment he was born.
Are you having a laugh?
He does exactly what I do.
Also, "Are you having a laugh" has got to be my new favorite phrase. Why can't I be from the UK or have an English accent? It does not sound as funny with my stupid American accent. Anyways, Bloodsport is the perspective that we see everything through, so we have one person that we can lean on through the entire film. Because if any average person would be put in this situation, they would probably feel the same way that he does, so he grounds the movie in some sense of reality. We learn he has a not so loving relationship with his daughter because he sees himself as a terrible influence and wants her to have nothing to do with him. Basically abandoning her to go into the world on her own because her alone is still better than being with him in his eyes. He was bribed into joining the Suicide Squad by the mean lady because she threatened to also lock up his daughter. You then get to meet the squad, and one of which is Ratcatcher 2, who is a younger girl who lost her father. Basically a reflection of his own daughter because she is let loose into the world without guidance of her father, just as he let his daughter go as well. She controls rats and has a rat companion named Sebastian. Bloodsport is afraid of rats because of the way his father used to lock him in a cage with hungry rats for punishment, and they would basically torment him. The best part about this pairing is that where Ratcatcher 2 is the embodiment of how he sees his daughter, Sebastian is actually the embodiment of the fear of fatherhood. He is scared of rats because they are a reflection of what his father did to him when he was younger. As the movie progresses, you learn the story of Ratcatcher 2's dad actually dying from his diabetes. And when Ratcatcher 2 shares her story, it actually opens him up to share his traumatic story as well, seeing her as a close resemblance to his daughter and causing them to bond. So at the end, when he sees her being threatened, it's like someone's threatening his own family, and you feel that. And then in the moment that he finally touches Sebastian, he is finally touching a moment from his past that has haunted him and is taking steps towards being a better person and getting over that. So Bloodsport and Ratcatcher 2 are a perfectly written pair for their given scenarios dealing with the trauma of their past. Now these two aren't the only cast members that get good character development over the course of the movie. King Shark is actually another character that gets a lot of depth, but on surface level you hardly notice. He is kind of used as the butt of the joke most of the time, but you see that he wants to be part of the team so desperately. He wants to make friends, because several times throughout the film he either mentions that he doesn't have any, or you see the amount of joy he has while attaining new ones. Then you get a scene that tugs on the heartstrings because it reminds me of when I was in college and my roommates would throw parties at our apartment. You really feel for this character despite him being written mostly for comedic purposes. Ratcatcher 2 is actually the first to give him the benefit of the doubt and call him a friend after he tried to eat her. And notice he never tries to do that again with anyone on the group because he doesn't want to lose what he desperately wants to gain, a friend. Polkadot Man and Peacemaker are mostly used for comedic relief as well, but that doesn't mean they don't get any sort of depth. Polkadot Man and his siblings were actually experimented on by their mother, and he was the only one to survive. But the only way he can really survive is if he throws up all this destructive confetti looking stuff, because otherwise it just consumes him entirely. He makes remarks about how he hopes that they die and how badly his mother scarred him in the past that he sees her everywhere. So he can't live a single moment of his life without seeing the person who abused and tormented him in his childhood, which is why in the end, when he got to inflict some kind of pain back onto her, he showed nothing but excitement and joy because he was not a monster that was caused by one of her experiments. He was a hero. Peacemaker doesn't get as much development as the others and is almost primarily used for comedy, and the same goes for Harley Quinn. Although, Peacemaker does get a scene where he shows up looking submissive and breedable. Also, why does the vein on his arm look like someone threw a wet noodle at him so hard that it's scarred? Anyways, the side plot with Harley kind of felt like they just wanted to either pad the runtime slightly or just leave her to the side so we can learn more about these new cast of characters that we haven't seen before, which would make sense due to how Rick Flag was also out of the scenes for a bit. But we did get a really cool scene of how Harley sees the world, so I'm totally fine with it. Even Starro dying in the end of the movie was a rather sad moment because he said that he was just drifting in space, minding his own business, and then humans brought him to Earth and started experimenting on him. So he's less of a villain and more like a circus tiger that finally fought back after years of being prodded and whipped to jump through hoops. The Kill Yourself crew are actually sent to destroy evidence of the Starro experiments, but Flag discovers that the US had a hand in all of it, so he actually wanted to bring it out into the light to the public. Peacemaker, wanting to keep the peace, didn't want that to happen, so he actually killed Rick Flag. The Kill Yourself crew could actually be a good name for the first Suicide Squad that went in, and then the Suicide Squad be referring to the one that we actually follow through the entirety of the movie. Fun fact, my sister was actually part of the Kill Yourself crew. Guess which character she is? Anyways, so where you think the US is actually going in to stop the ongoing inhumane experiments, they are actually just trying to cover up their hand in all of it. Then at the very end of the movie, when Starro is let loose, the mean lady wants them to fall back because it is no longer their issue, but the so-called villain squad, quote unquote, wanted to stay and help. And they do despite the threat of their own lives, swapping who we see as the heroes and the villains of the story. So just because the story isn't taken too seriously does not mean it doesn't make you think a little bit deeper about what is being presented on just a surface level. Because even though each member of the squad are only part of the task force to lessen their sentence in containment, they still do what is right in the end solely because it is right, not because it benefits them in any way. So in a way, James Gunn, in a single movie, built basically the complete opposite of the prior Suicide Squad. The original was dark and very hard to see what was happening, where James Gunn's version is very bright and colorful and full of unique James Gunn flair with the transitions and the action sequences. The original one took itself pretty seriously as far as the plot is concerned and wrote a story about villains being forced to team together to fight other villains. But Gunn's version took villains, teamed them up together to cover up the story of the real villain's hand in the overarching plot, while then doing what was right in the end, showing their growth from selfish to selfless. The original killed a bunch of nameless, faceless creatures that we could barely even tell what was happening, and Gunn used the bright and colorful world that he built as a template to show off some of the most gory scenes killing actual humans that we've seen in a comic book movie since probably Deadpool 2. James Gunn does not shy away from making a group of unknown characters likable, because the unknown part doesn't matter if you can flesh them out through the entire film, and that's exactly what he does here. He tells you the traumatic history of each character so they are seen as broken victims of their past rather than just evil people. I mean, okay, everyone is on the team to lessen their sentence time, but he furthers that by making a threat about Bloodsport's daughter, giving him more motivation that is based in an emotional stake rather than it just being a selfish pursuit of freedom. And he did all of this while poking fun at the other film. So you don't need to watch the original to watch this one and enjoy it, but there are a few parts that get a little bit funnier or a little bit better if you have seen the original.
You disobey me, you die. You try to escape, you die.
If we find out you have personalized license plates, you die.
What? No.
If you mismatch blacks, you die.
No.
He uses unique camera work, stylized transitions, and action sequences, and uses a bright color palette to carry the visuals of this movie, so even when there isn't much happening on screen, you can still be in awe about what you're seeing. James Gunn has perfected the idea of embracing a strange idea, making it fun, and just running with it, while at the same time not forgetting about what makes a movie work on a fundamental basis, and that is characters. The characters are what shine most in this film, and that is why The Suicide Squad is the perfect superhero movie. Do you agree? Let me know down below. I think James Gunn should definitely be able to do a follow-up film to The Suicide Squad, and I will eventually be talking about Peacemaker, which he also directed. Leave a sub to show some love, and let me know down below what movie I should take a look at next to add to the perfect superhero movie collection. It feels kind of strange to say have a marvelous day on a DC movie, so I'll say have a marvelous day and I'll DC you later.